Hey guys, and welcome back to Crime Cafe. I'm so excited to have you here. Today I'm going to be covering a case that actually is pretty close to my hometown here in Pennsylvania, and it was a cold case for 58 years. They just, within the past couple days, yesterday actually, announced the killer. They finally found him and brought closure to the family. And I wanted to quickly dive into the case and let you know every detail that I could find. It has gotten some media attention, so I'm not sure if you saw it or not, but it is the case about Marise Chiverella, and like I said, it's 58 years old. So it's a pretty significant cold case file, and they finally solved it. So like I said, today's case is going to be about Marise Chiverella. She was a 9-year-old girl and the daughter of Carmen and Marie Chiverella. It was back on March 18th, 1964, and she was getting ready for school. She usually walked to school with her brother and sister. They lived pretty close to the school that they attended. Usually she would leave with them. That morning, she wanted to leave a little bit earlier. They weren't ready to go yet, so she left on her own, and she was carrying a bag full of canned goods. Their school was going to have a feast day food drive, and she was donating some canned goods to that. Her school was called St. Joseph's School at the time. It is now known as Holy Family Academy, and her home was just a few blocks away at 533 Alter Street. So it wasn't too far away from the school. The last time that she was actually seen alive was by one of her neighbors. She was walking east on the north sidewalk near 212 West 4th Street. And this was around 8:10 a.m. And at this time, this was an area that was quite busy with traffic. So she was seen by many people. A couple of her neighbors asked her if she wanted to come in and get warmed up because they knew that she was pretty early for school. So there were witnesses that saw her walking, and she didn't want to. She just kept going because she wanted to get there early. Back then, this was a time that the kids were able to come home for lunch, and when she didn't come home for lunch, her family got concerned and noted, the school and the police and everything like that, and they knew that she was then missing. They looked everywhere near the school, and about 2 miles away from her school near the Hazleton Regional Airport, that's where her body was found in a what we call in the coal region a stripping pit. It's where coal miners used to mine. There's a lot of places like that around here. I mean, this is for a little bit further off from my town, but it is all the coal region area. So it's pretty much, you can go out in the woods and you can accidentally fall into a stripping pit if you're not aware of your surroundings. But that is where they found her. They found her fully clothed. She just didn't have her shoes on. Her hands were bound and her feet were bound with her shoelaces. She was wearing a multicolored scarf that day, and they found that inside her mouth to gag her. And later on, through an autopsy, they realized that she was raped and strangled to death. This case was actually considered the first child sex crime involving murder in that area. So it hit the town extremely hard. It scared everyone. The police and the investigators were working their butts off to figure anything and everything out, collect any evidence. She did have evidence on her clothes and everything. It was back in 1964, so they kept it, but they couldn't do anything with it at the time. And they did pursue a few leads. One suspect lived on the street that she would have had to walk to go to school. He lived with his common law wife, and that was on 4th Street. They actually had him scheduled to take a lie detector test, but he never made it to that test because he committed suicide by attaching a hook to his car's exhaust and piping the fumes inside the car. So he committed suicide instead of taking a lie detector test, and that I mean, that is alarming. Extremely. I'm actually shocked that they didn't just call it case closed there and make assumptions that he committed suicide because he was guilty and call the case closed. Instead, they kept it open because just because he committed suicide didn't mean that he did anything to her. So I think that is amazing that they kept it open and kept searching. Another suspect that they had was actually from a church group from Philadelphia, because a year later, they found a girl murdered from this church group, and this was near Philadelphia, and that same church group was in the Luzerne County area the night before Marise was murdered. So they thought maybe it could have been someone from that church group, but nothing ever came of that. Every single year since 1964, they brought the case back out and added any evidence, anything new. They checked into DNA things, anything. Every single year they would add to this case. They had over 4,000 pages of information filed for this case. They were adamant on finding the killer. The area never had anything like that, and they worked on it every single year. They never gave up on it. So in 2007, they brought out all of the DNA samples that they collected from Marise's clothes and body. So together they had 10 suspect specimens, clothing containing the killer's bodily fluid. They provided that stuff to the Pennsylvania State Police Department to collect like a DNA profile. So every single month since 2007, that DNA profile was checked against new DNA entry in the database. That was every single month. They ran that through, and they never found anyone. That was from 2007. In 2018, the troopers learned of new technology from paraben nanolabs, and they were able to take the DNA and do like a picture profile of what the suspect most likely looked like. Marise's family, along with the Investigators Association, they helped pay for the paraben nanolabs to take the DNA samples and make a profile for the suspect. So after they shared this profile, and I mean, this was in 2018, so it's a big difference from 1964 to 2018 on what this person would look like. So the Luzerne County District Attorney's Office will help with the cost of getting age progression photos as well. So they had one from what the suspect would have looked like at the age that he was in 1964, and then had him at 40 years old and had him at 60 years old. And they pushed it out there. They had it all over the internet asking if anyone knew this person, if it looked like anyone that they could recognize. They were trying so hard to solve this case. Then a year later in 2019, this paraben profile was uploaded to a GED match, and this was when the police got their first genealogical match. It was a very, very, very distant relative. It was actually like the sixth cousin, possibly the sixth cousin of this person. So it was well down the family tree, and there was a lot of work to be done to find out exactly who this person was. So I find this part absolutely fascinating. This person is incredible, and he's going to do amazing things in life. So a year after they got this match, in 2020, Eric Schubert, who was 19 at the time, contacted the state police, and he offered to help them for free. He was going to school to be a genealogist, and he was amazing at it. He is amazing at it. He has been obsessed with genealogy since he's 10 years old. So he has a fascination with it, and he's extremely skilled at that stuff. He actually has assisted police in several cold cases, which I find to be amazing. That's just so amazing. So young and so talented at what he does. It's a gift. So after tracking down families, relatives all over the country, he told he was in contact with the police. It was very much a group project, and most of the family volunteered pretty easily to give their DNA samples so they could find where the match is coming from. So they didn't really have an issue with any relatives or anything like that. Looking down the family tree, they were pretty confident that a James Paul Fort was going to match the DNA sample that they had from Maurice. He would have been 22 at the time of the murder, and they looked into him and they found out that in 1974, Fort pled guilty to aggravated assault, and he actually served a year on probation. And then in 1978, he was arrested for recklessly endangering and harassment. But unfortunately, James Fort had passed away in 1980 of natural causes. They assumed that it was a heart attack, so they didn't have him alive. But they were able to exhume his body on January 6th, 2022, so just last month. And on February 3rd, 2022, this just a couple days ago, came back a match for Marise's killer. The police do believe that this wasn't Fort's one and only murder. They think that it was a random attack on Marise, and that he most likely committed other crimes that they don't know about. So they do have his picture out there, and they are wanting to hear of any other cases that sound similar, or just figure out if he did anything else to anyone else. It's unfortunate that he is dead. Marise's siblings, her brother and sister, did say that their parents, who have already passed away, didn't seek revenge or punishment for the person who murdered their daughter. They just sought justice. And her brother did say that even though it doesn't bring closure to their family, because they lost so much time and memories that they could have had with their little sister, that it does bring justice. They found out who it was, and they were able to figure out that he's not out there doing it to anyone else anymore. They do feel thankful for that. They described Marise, they talked a little bit about her and how she was a very quiet girl. She was extremely sweet, and that she wanted to be a nun when she got older. So he took that away from her. He took her away from them, and it's sad that her parents aren't alive to know that they figured it out. They got him, but I think it's fascinating they did not give up on this case. This is actually the 4th oldest case file to be solved from genealogy in the country, and it's the first in Pennsylvania. So I think that is fascinating. But yes, they don't know much about James Fort. I'm sure they're looking into him and trying to figure out his life story and the different things that he did during the time that he was alive and after the murder of Maurice. So if eventually down the line, if there's anything to update when it comes to James Fort, I definitely will. But yeah, 58 years and it's finally solved. It's incredible. So let me know what you think about this case. If you have any other cases, always suggest them in the comments. I am always willing to hear your suggestions. And thank you so much for giving me your time. Make sure to like this video and subscribe. Hit the bell button so you can be notified every time I upload a video. And that's everything. I hope you have a great day. Bye.